Hadley ho, neighbors. PT Pop here. And I want to tell you about how hard it is to find an art studio here in the fine Icelandic town of Cleveland, Ohio. And I live in Cleveland. Today is April 2nd, 2025. It is 40 degrees and gray skies. We're supposed to get close to 7 inches of rain between now and Sunday. So I don't know. I didn't build my ark, so I'm not certain if I will still be here in a couple of days, but this may be my final broadcast. As an artist, most of us need a place. In the words of George Carlin, we need a place for our stuff. We need a place to be who we are, to be able to develop our minds, to be able to work on our minds in peace and solitude. Many of us do. And I'm one of those people. And I've been married for 21 years. Next month will be our 21st anniversary. And my wife is great. She lets me have my space. She lets me do what I want and do my own thing. But even though she does that and she's great at it, okay, it's very hard for me to feel at peace when there's another person in the house. It could be my mom. It could be one of the dogs, even though we don't have dogs anymore. It could be anybody. It could be my wife. It could be my brother, whoever it happens to be. If there's another living being within the vicinity of my being while creating, my brain doesn't function as creatively as it could. And I know that sounds pretentious and haughty and stuff, but if you're an artist, you know what I'm talking about. So many of us try to seek a place we can go that's separate from our house so we can go off and create and be by ourselves. Now, we had looked into adding an office onto the house in the backyard, like a separate structure, kind of like a casita or an in-law suite, but the HOA won't allow us to do it because the structure has to be attached to the house, and I don't want to attach to the house. I just want my own separate structure. Anyway, so over the years, I've had a variety of studios that I've rented from other places around the state. My first attempt was where I co-opted, where this photographer had his own studio in a really well-known art district in Cleveland. And I paid like $100 a month or something just to go in and use his equipment and his lights and his studio and his backdrops. But the problem with these art studios here in Cleveland, and I don't know if it's like this in other states, is they're all in less, and I'm being politically correct, they're all in less affluent neighborhoods. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. And when you park your car in the parking lot to go into your studio, you've got to, when you get out of your car, you've got to have your head in a swivel. You got to wonder when you come back to your car at the end of the night if your car's still going to be there or has somebody broken into it. So most of these places are not in good places, and most of these studios are not in good places, not good neighborhoods. So it makes it a very nerve-wracking environment because while you're in the studio, you're constantly thinking, oh, am I safe here? Is someone going to wander into the building that's going to, shoot the place up or rob us or mug us or whatever? That's always on my mind anyway, because you're not in good neighborhoods. So this photographer I was running from, it seemed cool for a while until we started having what's called First Fridays, where they let the public in to this building to look at everybody's studios and buy their artwork and stuff. And people are wandering around with their goblets of wine and eating their cheese and crackers. Lovey, look at black and white photograph of the Terminal Tower. I've seen better work on the backside of my ass. Ah! They're all art critics and they're all experts in photography and art and stuff. And so this guy that owned the studio, I noticed every time we had one of these events, he was always hitting on young high school girls. Now, this is a grown man. This is a man in his 40s. If not his 50s. And every time a sweet young thing walked in the studio, he'd be like, hey, are you guys models? You want to be a model? Hey. And he's putting on the charm to these young girls. And I'm like, this is just disgusting. And, I'm not into young girls. I don't like, I'm not into anything like that. I mean, I can be a kinky freak, but I'm not into anything like that. And I don't knock what guys do, but I don't want to be around them. I don't want to be hanging out with people that are potentially hurting young people. So I bugged out of there. It was month to month. I just told him, hey, I'm not that interested, and I'm just going to work out of my house. So over the years, since I've been back to Cleveland, I've had like 5 studios. So that was my first experience. My second experience was around 2022. I just finished my first documentary called The Artist. And I had filmed a documentary in the great city of Dayton, Ohio, and there's a tremendous art community down there. And a lot of the artists, including my friend Rusty, who was in my film, had a studio in a place called Front Street. And Front Street is an artist community of about 100 artists, 150 artists in an old envelope factory from the late 1800s, early 1900s. So it's been converted into just artist studios. And I think it was a 5 or 6 story building, great atmosphere. But the problem is, I rented a studio down there for a short time, but it's a 3-hour drive one way to get there, and a 3-hour drive back. And it was like a huge suite. This guy Richard, great guy, Richard London in Dayton, owns the building. He's from Chicago. He and his wife are just amazing. He was kind to rent this to me for like $400 a month. Just a killing, just great. Bathroom was right outside the door. Great artist in the building, but the problem was I had to find a place to stay overnight, because there's no way I could drive down there, work on my stuff all day, then drive back home. As I get older, I don't do too good in the dark driving at night, and I get tired, and so I had to stay in a hotel, and that was expensive. I was staying at a local Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express, and then one night I stayed at a bed and breakfast almost in downtown Dayton. And the night I was there, it was this old colonial house, this beautiful old colonial house built in like the mid 1800s or something. They had remodeled it, and this young couple had remodeled it and turned it into a bed and breakfast. So I'm going to bed one night, and I hear somebody trying to get in the front door. I look out my window, and there's this black woman trying to break in the front door. And I'm like, what the hell? So I got my 9mm with me, and I'm like, what the hell do I do? And I'm sitting here horrified, because I'm like, this is not my house. So does the castle doctrine apply when you're in a hotel room? If this woman runs in and she comes upstairs and she's armed, can I knock her off? I'm horrified. So I call the owner. I say, hey, are you trying to get into your house? He's like, no, why? I said, well, look at your cameras. There's somebody trying to break in the front door. He's like, I don't see anything on the front door. The arch cameras haven't been triggered. I'm like, you're kidding me. There's a woman out there right now. And so a couple minutes went by. She ran off. And this guy that owned the place vowed that nothing was going on. So long story short, it was too expensive to rent at this studio. The drive was too long. So a little while later, I found this place. This lady was an artist. She owned a shop on the west side of Cleveland where she was selling her art and other people's art. And she was remodeling the back of her studio to rent it out to other artists. So she had built walls. This was an old building. It was like from the early 1900s. And so the ceilings were like 20 feet high. But she built these little studios. I had a little studio. It was like 10 by 10. And I was just going to go in there and shoot stock photography. I had an old TV set in there. I was doing a lot of stock photography with. But the problem was, there was no privacy there. So the first day I moved into this studio, it was a good price. The lady was really nice. Somebody drove through the plate glass window of the front of the shop while they were doing donuts on snow-covered road out front. So the place was shut down a while for remodeling. And this lady who was really nice, every time I stopped into my studio to work, she would show up. And the shop wasn't always open. It was only open like 3 days a week. And sometimes I'd go in on the days it was closed. And I'd show up, and within minutes, she'd be there. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And she obviously knew I was there, because I turned off the alarm. There were security cameras in the place. So she must have saw me. And I don't know if she just didn't trust me or what, or she liked me and she wanted to hang out. But she would always come in, and always bother me and sit in my studio and talk and talk and talk. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking, I only wanted to be here for like 2 hours to get some things done, and she wouldn't leave me alone. And then one day I walk into my studio at this place, and the ceiling above me had come down, and my studio was flooded with muddy, I guess you'd call it muddy plaster. The ceiling above me had collapsed because the people that lived in the apartment above the studio had a water break in their bathroom or their bathtub, and the whole ceiling just came down. And all of my shit was covered with splattered, wet plaster, murky, muddy, moldy water, that I don't know what you call the pieces of wood that hold up the old plaster walls. So long story short, I bugged out of there and my lease is up. It was a waste of time and money. So then a couple years ago, I got a studio in a building on the east side of Cleveland called the Twist Drill Building, which is at East 49th and Lakeside. It's on the brink of the less affluent neighborhoods of Ghetto. And it was a cool place. I like the owner. The owner's a great guy. Mike, if you see this, he was a great owner. But he made a lot of promises that he didn't keep, as landlords do. This is common with landlords. For some reason, they make promises and they don't keep them. And he said he was going to remodel the place. And outside my studio, which was on the 5th floor of this building, was this carpeting that was at the very minimum from 1985. It was filthy. It was torn. It was tattered. Some parts of it had been repaired with duct tape, which had been walked over 1,000 times. And the edges of the duct tape were turned upside down and caught all the dirt, and it was stained and it smelled. And my studio at first, I didn't notice the smell at first. I had a 400 square foot studio with one window with a really strong door on it. Like you could not break through this door unless you had a battering ram. So I felt safe and secure in the building. But the smell in the studio was atrocious. And I don't know how I didn't notice this at first, but once I was in there was like this burnt chemical smell in my suite. And every night when I left, my clothing was saturated with this horrible smell. And since I moved out of this studio, all of my equipment, my furniture, everything I had in there is still saturated. This is 2 years ago. This is still saturated with the smell from the studio. So anytime I went down there, I couldn't take it. I would only be in there for like an hour, and I'd say, I can't stand it. I got to go home. I got to get the hell out of here. This smells too bad. And it was in a bad area. There were homeless people out in the parking lot, and there were people constantly breaking into our cars. And it was the kind of place where you had to have your gun on your hip. I always had my head in a swivel. You always wondered if your car would still be there when you got out there at the end of the night, at the end of the day. So my wife lost her job, though. The lease was up. I got out of that lease. So I recently found a new studio that I may sign a lease on today. Now, this is the quintessential studio. This is perfect. All utilities are included. There's a bathroom inside the suite, and there's 2 rooms. There's an office, and then there's a main studio where I can do my photo shoots. And I can do filming, I can do green screen, I can do the whole 9 yards. So the woman that was in it, her lease was up yesterday, and he's going to try to get me in there to take a look at it again today, because I have to look at one more. I have to look at the office, because I wasn't able to get in the office before because she lost the key to it or something, or she had the locks changed and she couldn't find the key. I don't know. It's always something with these places. So my question is, do all cities have art communities in bad neighborhoods? Like every single one, even Front Street was in a questionable area where you really had to have your head in a swivel. There were homeless people wandering through there, kind of questionable looking people kind of shuffling through there. Is it like this in every city? And if you can leave me a message in the comments and let me know, or leave me a message, DM me at skatingbearstudios@gmail.com. Because I'm telling you, I don't get it. I don't understand why some business developer doesn't come into the city in a nice neighborhood. There's all these abandoned buildings now because of the nasty wasty bug. Everybody's working from home. Take one of these new buildings and give it to some artists. And I'm sure the local city councils won't put up with it. Oh, now put artists in a brand new building, shiny glass building, and our community bring the riffraff around with their pot and their tattoos and their paisley colored tie-dye. Ho, 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 ho. You know, most of these uptight corporate types wouldn't have half of what they got if it wasn't for an artist. Did their logo creations. Well, now that AI is in place, that doesn't matter, but you know what I'm saying? They don't know their ass from hole in the ground when it comes to art, and they couldn't design anything if their life counted on it. But we're the riffraff. We're the riffraff that brings beauty to the world. So we'll see what happens with this, but is it the same way in your city? Does your city have the art communities all sequestered to the ghetto? The less affluent neighborhoods. It's going to rain here today. I don't know if I mentioned this. We're supposed to get close to 7 inches of rain up here in Cleveland between now and Sunday. And I did not build an ark. So this may be my last broadcast as we know it to mankind. So if you don't see me again after this, we got washed away. We're not near the river. We're a few miles away from the rivers here, the big rivers. But the one river near us does flood. They always close the roads down near it. And if it floods when we get like half an inch to an inch. So if this is 7 inches going to come over the next 6 days, 5 days, some people around here are going to be hurting. Basements are going to be flooded. God help us if there's any tornadoes. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think, what your experience has been as an artist. And check out my Patreon channel for my PT Pop channel. I just released a new mini documentary. It's 8.5 minutes long. It's called Angel's Flight. It's about the creation of a brand new painting I did called Angel's Flight, titled Angel's Flight. And I'm very proud of this mini documentary. And it's going to be distributed on the internet. It's going to be distributed through, I did the painting of a woman named Jean Marie Spacuzza, who I, quote, met on the internet through Instagram. She's a brilliant actress, writer, director, filmmaker from Los Angeles. She's going to help distribute the documentary because she's also working on a feature film, a small feature film that I believe the theme rolls around angels. Jean, if you're watching, forgive me. I think that's what it's about. But she's an amazing, beautiful woman who has a lot of talent, and she likes my film. So check that out on Patreon. I'm selling it on there. You can watch it for $5. It's a steal, my friends. All right, guys, I'm going to head back to the ranch before the rains come falling down, and I will be washed away with Jesus. So I hope you're all having a good day, and take care. Have a good day. Bye. I think I turned it off. I'm still rolling. Hey, I didn't put the beautification button on. Do I look beautiful now? My retouch is on. My skin looks smooth and young again.